Do all of the older people, when I say older, I don't mean old, but the 90s and 80 babies and beyond. Do you remember the time when you have somebody you're interested in? You just write them a love letter. Especially during class, we used to pass love notes. How many of you remember that? Now, I'm imagining people sending text messages to each other in class. If not text messages, then they might send maybe some photos of themselves, or either maybe Snapchat each other or send messages on Facebook. That's what I guess more likely that's what kids are doing now, especially in high school and college years. Well, I just want to kind of discuss how the game really changed, especially when it comes to men trying to get in at women. Because I can remember back in the day, because I'm an '80s baby and I'm an '80s baby, grew up in the '90s as a child, and still growing up into the early 2000s when I was at my adolescence. My adolescent years is in the early 2000s. But I remember the time when, oh yeah, I have to think back. This one particular, there's a few, girls back then I used to like when I was in school. Some of them, to the point where I can wake up middle of the night thinking about one particular girl. Not going to say no name. While I have her on my mind, I thought of how she looked, how she talk, how she walk, and keep thinking about contemplating in myself, do she like me? Do she like me? But I didn't have the balls to approach her. Mind you, I was like in middle school, so I was like a preteen. When the hormones start kicking in, because that's when especially during middle school, a lot of girls start developing a little bit. Despite of their, I guess, personal situation they got dealing with, with the cycle, they have like they their breasts kind of get a little perkier. They hips might start get wider. That's when the puberty stage, and as for me, I didn't really grow any facial hair at the age of 13. I didn't, but my voice kind of got a little deeper, and I kind of grew a little bit. Well, I was short. Don't get me wrong, I was short, but I kind of grew a few inches, and that puberty kind of kicked in a little bit, and I started growing more attractions to a lot of girls on campus when I was in middle school. And one in particular, there's a few of them I write love letters to. You remember those love letters where you say, "Do you like me?" And you give them a choice, yes, no, or maybe. But I just altogether sometimes put yes or no, and I got a lot of no's. No lie. But some of them even put like maybe, but not with me, but for some other guys, especially some of the boys I hang with. They say, "Oh, she say maybe. She say maybe." We used to pass notes to on school buses. Do you like me? Yes, no, maybe. Some people say, "Ooh." That's how the love letter used to be. Now you probably don't have to worry about it, because the only person that have to worry about it is you and the person you text her, unless she decide to show her friends that, or you decide to show your buddies that. The game has changed a good bit over the years, because there's one girl, and I'm from South Carolina, and especially like throughout the '90s, I think a lot of people, even to this day, a light skinned girl is most desirable if she's light skinned and beautiful. But most people, especially down in South Carolina, they see a light skinned person, that's like a plus. And she's beautiful. And there's one in particular. She wasn't really light skinned, but she was like about my complexion, maybe a shade darker. But she was real beautiful. And I want to get with her because for a seventh grader, she's shaped like a woman. Like I have like a fully developed body like a woman. And perky. and walk with a switch. And you dealing with a bunch of horny adolescent preteens and teenagers. I'm like, a lot of guys try to get with her, and not many. One of us have the balls to approach her because one of those pretty girls that may be smiling one minute, and next minute she might have a mean look, like, "Oh, don't bother me." And sometimes she kind of smile, walk and smile. She's waking. You say, "Hey," she's like, "Hey," like they kind of smile, and it kind of entice you to want to. I want to get with her. But unfortunately, I got rejected by her. Not because I approached her, but because somebody asked her out for me. And she say, look at me like, "Oh, hell no." And then it crushed, I ain't gonna lie, it crushed me the whole day. And she told me that on the Friday. So throughout the weekend, I had my heart kind of torn to pieces all over this one letter. But anyway, I'm getting a little off topic here. But yeah, the game has changed because I remember back in the day, if you interested in a woman, they just give you the number, write it down. You say, "I got the number, I better not lose it." So you keep it in your pocket. Soon you get home from school, you get on the phone and dial. And the first thing, especially my grandmother said, "You're not calling any long distance, are you?" I'm like, "Oh no," because back then long distance calls was expensive, especially if you call collect. Some people, commercials say call collect, save a buck or two. And my grandmother see that, like, that's a lie. No, collect costs money. I didn't know at that time, and I don't really know how to use collect. Only thing I do know is how to dial that number and talk. And I think I may have gotten some numbers, but um, I don't think. In fact, I don't recall getting any numbers from middle school and maybe late in high school. That's my a lot of girls start giving me their numbers voluntarily, because I got so many rejections even throughout high school. But I just take it like a champ and learn every. It's a learning experience. Some of the things I do and don't, and also accept the fact that not a lot of girls will be attracted to me. But back in the early part of 2000, this during time when I was like about out of high school, I, my church actually went to Carowinds. I remember this, and at that time I didn't have no cell phones. Went to Carowinds, and it was just me and my brother and a couple other church people. I was hanging with my brother, and me and my brother talking about, we talking about girls and the amount of girls being Carowinds. And in case you don't even know, Carowinds is an amusement park that's in Charlotte, North Carolina. So we had to ride on a bus from South Carolina just to go to Charlotte to go to Carowinds, and it was packed. So I went to Carowinds, and there was some lovely girls out there. My brother do what he does and talk to girls. I don't know if he been lucky getting any numbers. So I did what I did. I get after I getting on the roller coasters and stuff. So I met this a few of them. Many of them look at me like because I guess my approach was wrong, because I'm I'm still a newbie when it comes to flirting with women, because I started getting my confidence back when I got a little older. Many of them kind of reject me. No, I have a boyfriend, and some of them say that. Some of them been flat out bold and say, "Sorry, but I'm not interested in you." I was like, "Oh wow," and I just kept trying. And I run up into a beautiful. I mean, she was real beautiful. She looked like someone that came out of a Jet magazine. Beautiful, because back then, I used to look at a lot of Beauty of the Weeks in Jet magazine, and she looked like a model from one of those magazines. Or if not that, then look like a kind of type of woman that a lot of guys in high school would get with. And I think she was like, I'm guessing from the way she looked like she could be like mixed, but she's black, but she looked like she mixed with a Native American, real light skin, long hair, you know, just good shape and everything. It's not because of her skin; it's just her beauty and her mannerism. But I approached her, And she was so nice and, polite, and talked to me and say hey and smile at me. We had a few conversations and everything, and after we had to talk. She, no, we do, and we went out to eat together, whatever. She gave me her number, and I wrote it down. I make sure to save it in my pocket. I say, God, I wish my brother was here, so I can, because me and my brother love to compete, especially when it comes to something like this. And he's like a little older than me, so that's a challenge. And I told him the news, and I said, yeah, I said she was beautiful. He didn't want to believe me. I said, man, because we had cell phones, but cell phone wasn't a thing. Not many of us had them back in like in 2000, 2001. Not many people had cell phones. So you have to rely on maybe a landline phone for the most part, especially camera phones, because camera phones weren't really out just yet. But if he would have saw her, he would have been like, he he probably would have tried to get at her too. But I went home, and after we come from our trip from Carowinds, went home. I like, she's from Danville, Virginia, from what she told me. And you know my grandmother is about long distance calls. You ain't calling a long distance, right? Like, no. I like, no, grandma, no, no, no. So I only talked to her for about 2, 3 minutes over the phone, and she told me, we actually talk and have a conversation. I told her where the address is. She gave me her address. So when I got her address, we start writing letters. And for many of you know how the letter thing works, you write a letter and you gotta have letters, stamps, paper, and start writing. And so the old school way I did it, get one of my favorite colognes and start spraying on the letter. It could just make it more attraction, because I'm thinking I'll add a little flavor to the letter and send it off. She got it and then sent me a letter off with a picture. I sent her a picture of me. She sent me a picture of herself, and I showed my brother. My brother look kind of shocked. That's her? I'm like, yes. He put his hand over his mouth and and gave me a handshake. Bro, I'm proud of you. He said, I'm proud of you, brother. Man, I'm proud. I was like, thank you, thank you, thank you. And that was, that was one memorable time ever. I think I lost contact with her, but I may have lost contact, because I was thinking about back at her. I might have lost touch with her because, you know, I lost the number she had, and not to mention, I can't really keep making long distance call. And I might have forgotten her number, and of course I no longer have that paper. But yeah, you start losing numbers when you start writing. Remember having like phone number books, but text messages. A lot of kids now just texting people, and I'm still, even when I start getting cell phones, I was still getting numbers throughout my phone. Get the name, get the number. I didn't really start texting until I got my second phone, I think. And that's before I had that Verizon wireless, so I had like a Alltel or something. I can't remember it. Many of the old players, y'all know about that. We had the Alltel and I was still using landline phones, because some of these phones run on minutes. And whoever remember the Verizon rule, after 9 o'clock, yeah, that's when you can talk to any as long as you want. And I say to myself, dang man, we only had this time during the time I met uh, this girl from Carowinds. But all in all, I'm here to say that the game has definitely changed over the years. And truth be told, I think with the use of text messages and internet, that kind of changed people approach and want to communicate with other people. Like, it just changed in a negative way, because not many people know how to interact with people as much face to face. They rely on like dating apps and stuff, Facebook dating, which is cool, because I'm be on Facebook dating sometimes. But a lot of people rely on that a lot, instead of seeing someone they like and approach them and talk to them more, more commonly. The game has changed. I can meet someone from I can talk to somebody who's like a few cities away from me, and it won't be much of a thing with that. and I can talk with him. We can meet up, and boom, there you go. Back then, if you really want to meet someone, you could just go out somewhere, maybe go to another city or state and talk with them and stay connected and talk over the phone. But anyway, yes, the game has changed a lot, and for the people who are 80s, 70s, 90s baby, mostly 70s and 80s especially. Have you faced any similar situation like I have where you used to write love letters and everything? I'm not saying that younger generation do it, but they don't really have to.